Welcome, Libra. It's your energy alert deep dive special forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. Across the 28th to the 30th of June, there's a huge amount of planetary activity. Some of it can be highly energized and some of it incredibly draining. How do we navigate that? On the screen is the event chart of the Capricorn full moon at the heart of this event from a purely Libran viewpoint. I'm going to unpack this for you, and by the end of the video, you have a clearer picture of what's upcoming in terms of your vitality, work, relationships, or finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive, but please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. So on the 28th of June, Mars, the planet of passion, drive, and individuality, moved into the sign of Gemini. It's an air sign, of course, like you, but for you, it's very much about exploration, adventure, widening your horizons, which is going to help you to do over the next 6 weeks. But laying in wait was the electric energies of Uranus. And that combination is high octane energy, but potentially quite impulsive energy. But on Tuesday, the 30th, Jupiter, the planet of growth and hope, moves from the part of your chart to do with your career, ambitions, and goals, where it's been for 13 months, into the friendly 11th house, very much to do with your higher purpose. So that link between Mars and Jupiter in those two signs is about as good as it can get, because the air of Gemini oxygenates the fire of Leo, because fire needs that air. So that is really going to be very positive indeed. What's much more complex, Libra, is that on the 29th, Mercury, the communicator, but also the planet of precision, in the part of your chart to do with your connection to the world, possibly through your work, but can be to do with where you take charge of situations or you have a lot of responsibilities. That goes into the retrograde through to the 23rd, and that in itself can cause some mischief. Because Mercury retrogrades do also give us a chance to rethink things in a more constructive way. So we mustn't see it as being purely a challenge, but the full moon across the 29th or 30th, wherever you are, can be much more complex, because the flip between the sun for you being in the 10th house, which is very Capricornian, if you like, and the moon's in the 4th house, which is very Cancerian. So they're flipped. So the sun is in the part of your chart to do with aspiration and really going for it, just at a time when the moon could see you doubt yourself, or seeing you much more aware of how things feel as far as your hopes and goals, and not just being focused on the prize or perhaps the prestige of a particular position you'd like to go for or you have at the present time. And they're both in cardinal signs, which is very much about being in charge, but they're T-squared by Neptune. And this is where the energy can really drain away, because whether it's dealing with home and emotional or family issues, or whether it's to do with professional and worldly matters, if your connections to others aren't very clear and certain, whether from you or from them, that could be profoundly draining. And it's something to really take seriously, because Neptune's going to be in this part of your chart for a very long time. So it's great to be idealistic about relationships and think the best of people, but we also need to set boundaries. Now, that's easily done with Saturn and much more challenging with Neptune. Neptune on that 7th house can really be quite tricky. So what we can get in a way is emotional overwhelm, particularly if that part of you that doesn't like to disappoint people or say no. That could come up, whether it is around being asked to do overtime, which doesn't quite work for your home or family life, or perhaps you're focused on a personal situation and it may be a boss that's not very happy. If the interaction between you, which obviously Mercury retrograde can affect, is not clear through Neptune, that could see you feeling very depleted. one of the things that I think will come up for us all is a kind of potential oscillation. Full moons provide a backdrop energy for the next 2 weeks. So it could be an oscillation between trying to take charge of the situation and then trying to lean into how it feels, and then maybe getting caught up in the politics of the relationships with people at work or home. Not easy. But there are some mitigating energies, not least that Saturn in that seventh house is in a fabulous link with your ruler Venus. Keeping it friendly, keeping the lines of communication open, even if not everyone answers your email or text message straight away, or you're waiting to hear about a job you've applied for, you're not getting the response, could be very frustrating. The other thing that I think is very important is if you are in a situation, home or professionally wise, where you really don't feel appreciated. So it may be with a flatmate, it could be with a colleague. What the combination of Mars and Uranus and linking back to Jupiter are telling you to do is to break free. And Mars and Uranus together can be very decisive. But because perhaps you don't always like outright confrontation, breaking free takes a clear decision, and clear decisions can be difficult with Neptune. So you can see again the potential for energy to drain. The other thing to tell you about is as much as Mars could push you to do something completely bold and daring, it's in a T square with the nodal axis. And for you, the North Node is very much about your physical health and how it affects your emotions, and also about your routines and how they can actually drain you in terms of your physicality. So that's intriguing. Mars is being very provocative. So if there's something that you've been working on over the last year and a half, which isn't any longer working, even if delivering the message to the people you're involved with or the person might not be easy, Mars and Uranus are telling you to have the confidence to do what you want on your terms. So if you're not enjoying that job, not enjoying where you're living, not enjoying the politics around the situation, even though it's very, very difficult because of the illusion that Neptune can create, as long as you really make sure that you're absolutely clear about what all the issues are, it may be better to actually create that independence. Because Cancer is very much about emotional security, instinct, protection, Capricorn, the moon, where it's in detriment, very much about control, responsibility, and containment. But you could feel pulled around over the next 2 weeks, and maybe because the apex of the T square, so in other words, the pressure valve is Neptune. One of the good things you can do, because obviously Neptune's linking very well to Uranus and Mars, and will do to Jupiter as well, is to link to people who are nurturing, caring, and understand some of the pressures that you're under. I'm going to summarize those 4 areas of vitality: work, relationships, and finances next, Libra. Just to say, I've slashed the price of my personal horoscope reports. It's now buy one, get three for the price of one. The one you pay for is your life roadmap report. It helps us to understand the patterns in our lives. And free, your 12 months transit, and also your draconic soul karmic analysis, which helps us to look at astrology, life, and ourselves in a very different and fascinating way. Please see the link below for more. If you've yet to watch your Jupiter into Leo 13-month forecast, please see that on the screen. If you've yet to watch your July monthly forecast, please see that on the screen. Please click on the eye, the information eye. It will take you through to those videos. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, pleasure. Please see the testimonials below. If you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope, finds your device each morning, please see below to sign up for that and get your early day celestial pit stop. So as far as neat energy is concerned, physical energy, we could be talking about the North Node. And in terms of your emotional energy, more about maybe the things that you find difficult to let go of, because maybe routines, for example, because although they're a bit habitual, they do feel quite safe. But Mars is really challenging them in a very provocative way. If there's something around your emotional or physical world that's not quite working properly, Mars is saying to liberate yourself from how you're being oppressed, and Uranus will help that. However, in terms of your connection to people, either personally, emotionally, or professionally, if some of those relationships drain you, perhaps soak up your vibe because they're not so attuned to you. They're much more demanding of you. I think it may be time again to refer to Mars and Uranus. In terms of your professional situation, well, I think it does depend on your unique circumstances. We've got a Capricorn new moon coming on the 14th of the month. It is going to be in a conjunction with Mercury, still retreating at that time. But if you are pitching for new roles, writing out applications, you may be waiting to hear. There could be a sense of frustration. The best you can do is to be as clear as possible, because Neptune can create confusion. But one of the reasons it creates confusion is because our expectations are too high. So do keep those relatively grounded. As far as relationships are concerned, if you don't feel very supported emotionally or in terms of your goals and ambitions, that's a good reason not to be in that tie. But if you're in a tie that's very solid, Saturn with Venus is fabulous. If you're single, the chances of having some really magnetic connections in the weeks and months ahead are fantastically high. Hold on to your celestial hat. It's really looking bright. As far as everyday finances are concerned, that's ruled by the second house, and you can see you don't have anything there. You do have Chiron in the eighth house now. Chiron there's saying, have you got a bit of a wound about your worth to attract abundance? It's a word that's used a lot in a world where, for a lot of people, there isn't much abundance. You know, there's a lot of, for all of us, we're working extremely hard to pay the bills, which seem to be going up. So I'm very wary of using the word abundance. But what I think we can say is the eighth house is our deep relationship with worth. And it can also be where we connect to others. Work on that. Jupiter's squaring up Chiron. So it's kind of saying, in a way, if you can work on your inner world and attract friends or connections that can be very helpful to you, then that can boost your finances in turn. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Libra. All the best, and hope to see you again soon.